Hello Brigadians, this is part 3 of the Node.js tutorial, and in the previous video you have learned about the get route. Now in this video we will try and work with a database. So without wasting any time, welcome to Prego Coding Classes. This is Amber Roy. Let's get started. Alright, so to start, let's just keep one route over here. That is the default route, and delete all these routes. But obviously you can keep it. I'm just deleting it just to simplify some codes over here. So before we start, some things that you'll need. First one is MongoDB. That is a MongoDB Mongo database, and you'll get it from the MongoDB website. You can install it. Now there are documentations about how to install MongoDB in different platforms. So as I'm using Linux, as you all know, there is a different documentation for my operating system, but obviously there are different documentations for your ones also. So check that out. It's very easy in Windows, I suppose. And the second one is MongoDB Compass. Now MongoDB Compass at least makes the database viewing and editing a lot more easier. So it's better if you are a beginner to install MongoDB Compass, because I'll be working with MongoDB Compass just to simplify things and present it to you. So just download and install these two stuff, and now let's begin with the coding. So first of all, we need to check the status of the MongoDB or the Mongo database. So in Linux, my code is sudo systemctl status and then MongoDB, and it says, I'm sorry, it should be MongoD, and it says running. Now if you have just installed MongoDB, it shouldn't be running. So it should show like, I'll show it to you. And if I show the state, it should obviously show like this, inactive or dead. Now you'll have to run it. Now to run it, obviously you need to start the MongoDB service, right? So just start it and then see the status. It should show active and running. All right, this is just simple. And if you exit, it will still keep on running. All right, so you don't have to worry about it stopping after you exit from that syntax. All right, now the second thing what we need to do is run our MongoDB Compass, and as I said, it simplifies the viewing of the MongoDB or the Mongo database. So let's just wait for it to open. All right, now that our MongoDB Compass is running, so there are two ways of connecting to the MongoDB or the Mongo database. Now there are two instances of Mongo database actually. So one is MongoDB Atlas. Now that is a totally online platform. So the whole database is situated online, and you do not have to install anything on your computer. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to use actually. It's very cheap. It's a very powerful platform. But as I'm teaching, I'm trying to get every resource and try to present it to you for free. So if you install MongoDB in your computer, it becomes free, all right? So you can use it as a free software. So if you have not installed MongoDB in your computer, if you are using it in an online platform, so there's a link to connect to that database if you are using Compass. So you just have to paste that link over here and hit connect, this one, and the database will show or will pop up into this whole window. So you can create your table, you can create a cluster rather, and you can work with the database. But if you have installed it in your computer, so you have to connect to it locally. Now, how to connect to it locally? So you just have to hit fill in connection fields individually. Now you have to write over here localhost and make sure the port number is always 27017. Do not miss that. So as our MongoDB is running in the background, the server, so let's hit connect, and here we have our database loaded. So this is the same UI that is shown for Atlas, that is the online platform, and for the localhost both. So you'll feel same if you're using Atlas or if you're using the PC, it shows the same way. So anyways, this is our cluster, our Prego classes I've used earlier, but we'll obviously create a new one here. So let's not talk about it right now. Let's just minimize it and work with MongoDB over here. So over here we need to install Mongoose. Now this package is for MongoDB itself, so install it. Alright, so that our Mongoose is installed, let's just check the package.json, and over here it shows Mongoose installed. Now in the app.js file we need to create a constant, so we'll name it as constant Mongoose equals require Mongoose. Okay, so now that we have created a constant, what we need to do is we need to again connect the database to the MongoDB database that is running in the background. Okay, so the same way it is listening to a port, the same way this Mongoose needs to connect to its original database. Now to connect, we need to write mongoose dot connect, and we need to connect to MongoDB localhost, and we need to specify the port, so 27017, the same one what we used here, the localhost 27017, and we need to specify a cluster. Now we'll name it as, let's say, Prego Node Tutorial, okay, comma, and we need to use URL parser colon true, and we need to use unified topology, which is equals to true. Let's bring it down one line so that it's easier to read, and then we give another comma and we create a function which would return let's say console.log. So console.log will write connected to database on port 27017. Alright, so we'll save it, and over here we need to do npm start, so that when we hit save it auto restarts, like the way I explained to you in the earlier class or in the previous video. Alright, let's hit it. Alright, good news. So it connected to port 5000, and it also connected to the database that is running behind on port 27017. Okay, so before using this database, let me simplify some things and tell you, that is, whenever you are posting something in the database, or whenever you are saving something from in the database, and you are wanting to see something from the database, you need to have a schema. Now what is a schema? So while we were using Firebase, we used to create a separate class to implement the getters and setters and all the variables. So the schema works in the same way actually. So here you provide all the variables or all the fields that you want to have in the database, that you want to use while saving or while reading from the database. Alright, so when I do this, that would actually explain it to you a lot more. So over here we need to, let's create a folder rather, and we write over here model, and underneath this model we create a file called let's say Mongo schema.js. Don't forget the .js. And over here we write constant Mongo equals require Mongoose. Underneath we write constant, let's say p schema equals new Mongoose or Mongo dot schema. We give a first bracket and a curly brace. Now underneath this schema we need the fields. Alright, so the first field I would like to give is user title and a curly brace. Now this is a field that would be saved in the database. Now what is this field of? What kind of a variable this field will be? So the type would be string, and then require would be true, comma. Okay, we need a colon over here also, and then a comma, and then we create another field that is user post, then a colon and a curly brace, then we write type as string, and then required as true. Alright, so required field is if you do not provide this user post, it gives you an error. Alright, so if you give it false, now if the user has a choice whether or not to provide this user post field, but we need these two fields to be there for now, so let's give it true, and that's it. Let's create another field which is post date, and the type would be date, and let's provide a default of date dot now. Okay, we forgot a comma over here, and that gets rid of the error. And underneath we need to export this module. So module dot exports equals Mongo dot model. So the model name, let's give it as post, and then we write the schema. So p schema constant variable. That's it. Our schema creation is done. Let's save it. And over here we have a app.get. Alright, so we don't have anything in the database right now. As you see, the Prego Node tutorial cluster is also not created over here. So let's first create a post method. So let's write app.post, comma. Let's give a asynchronous field of request, comma, response. Now we are giving it asynchronous because there might be too many requests at the same time. So let's give it asynchronous so that it doesn't give you any errors. Then create a function. We need to specify a constant, but before that we need to say constant post equals require first bracket, then colon slash model slash Mongo schema.js. Alright, now this schema is provided to this constant variable which is post. So we are going to use this post to create a new schema over here, which is constant post, let's say user post equals new post first bracket curly brace, and we'll say user title would be request dot body dot user title, and the next one would be user post. Now let's check the schema once more. So it's a user title and user post. User post would be request dot body dot user post. Now why we are using request dot body? Because I told you earlier, request is what is coming in, response is what is going out. Alright, so this request which is coming in has to have a body to post something in the database. Now this body thing, the request.body thing, will discuss it when we actually post something. We actually try to post something through this Node.js app into the database. So for now, let's just be request.body.userTitle. Let's give a semicolon. Let's use try and catch. So try and catch. Over here we'll write constant response equals await post, that's right, user post dot save. Okay, and in response we'll send post saved successfully, semicolon. And if there is an error, we'll send the error. Let's send the error rather, and we'll also console log error. Okay, so this should actually post something in the database. All right. So as we are connecting the database, so we shouldn't have any problem posting. Now after posting, we'll try and get something from the database again. Now for posting and getting, there is a simple software to use, that is Postman. So please install Postman also. Let me just write it for you. So the software is, let me just zoom in, is Postman. This one. There is a website, just download it and install it. It is very easy to install. I'll just use it to post something in the database. Alright, so this is the default view of Postman. So I'll just use plus sign, and over here let me just make this bigger. So over here it says enter request URL. So when we hit localhost 5000, that is our port number, and we give the get request. Alright, so there are other requests as well: post, put, patch, delete, copy, head, whatever. So we are using the get request. Let's hit send. It says this is a response. Now this is what is programmed into this one. So this is a response. So this is what is the Postman is getting. Alright, so when we hit post, let's see what happens. So it throws an error that cannot post. Right, now let's see why it cannot post. It cannot post because it requires a user title and a user post. Alright, so what we do here is we hit this column called, or tab called, the body. When you hit that, you have a lot of options below. So select raw, then change the text to JSON. Alright, now as I was saying that the request.body.user title. Alright, so the request has to have this body inside it. So what the body consists of? So we are making, or we are actually creating this body over here. So the first body property would be user, we need to give a colon, user title. Did I just say colon? This should be quotes. I'm so sorry. So user title should be inside quotes, and then a colon, and then another double quotes, and the title would be, let's say, example, a comma, and then again double quotes, user post, and then we would say this is an example post. Okay, so what we are providing in the body? So we are providing whatever we have in the schema. So we have the user title. Now the request.body.user title. So the body should have this field inside, like the way we are providing here, user title, and this one should have the user title as well. Now if we change this to title, so what we need to do here is we change this to title as well. Alright, so whatever the body has, the variable or the thing we are getting from the request.body should also be the same. So let it be title. Let's not change it, and it's example, and let's hit send. Let's see what happens. Alright, so it again gives an error. Why? Because the Node.js, whatever the Node.js is reading from the request.body, we are sending it in the JSON format, but the Node.js is not able to read in the JSON format. Alright, because nowhere in Node.js it is specified that the body should be read as the JSON format. So what we need to do here is app.use express.json. That's it. Now when we hit save, alright, when we save it gives an error because we have specified JS over here, which is not needed. Let's just save again. Again it crashes. Alright, so again it gives an error because we have to give a dot. Now this dot is provided for actually recognizing this folder over here. So whenever you have a folder, you give dot, but whenever you have a folder inside a folder, you give double dots. right, like this. Anyways, so this should work now. Let's just save it and let's hit npm start. Alright, so we are using express.json and this should read the JSON format well now. Let's see what happens. So we again hit send and it says post saved successfully. Now let's check our Mongodb Compass. We just hit the refresh. Alright, so we forgot one more thing, that is this is the save is a function, so we just give first bracket over here and then we hit save, and when we hit save and then hit send, it says post save successfully again. But whenever we refresh over here, we can see Prego node tutorial, then posts. So we hit the post and as you can see the object is saved over here. Now the object ID is specified automatically, so it's a good thing because we can use it anyhow we want. So it's not like MySQL that the object ID auto incremental and 1 and 2 and 3. So in that sense MongoDB is obviously better than MySQL because it generates an ID automatically. Anyway, so we have our ID over here, and now what we need to do is let's just create 2 or 3 more. So I'm sorry, I was actually trying something over here, so let's just change it to title as it was, and then over here let's say title again, send, let's say example 2. Alright, so post saved. Now let's check it over here, let's refresh it and it's here, example 2 is here, and let's give an example 3, send it. Alright, let's try to send 4 and 5. So we have 5 saved items in our database. Let's refresh it again and you see 5 saved items. So now what we can do is we need to fetch every item. So over here what we can do is we can use this get method to get all the items. Alright, now by default this was sending this text over here, but let's delete it and say let's use a try catch rather. So try and then catch error. So in try we'll say constant response equals await, let's make it asynchronous, async, and let's await for post. What was the, yes, it was post dot find, and we give a semicolon, and in response we just send this constant variable as a response. Okay, so while there is an error, it should show the error itself. Alright, now what this thing will be doing is whenever we give the default route as a get method, it will give all the variables that are present in the database. So if you do not provide any variable to this find method, every data that is present in the database would be shown as a response. Okay, So let's try it. So let's change it to get and just send it. Okay, we forgot to save. I'm forgetting to save every time. Control S, and the database restarts. Now let's send, and you get every data as JSON format, right? So we have till example 5, example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So we are done with the two methods. First one is get, second one is post.
If you have liked the video, hit the like button, then the subscribe button, and then the bell icon.